Okay, welcome to Teach Online TV. My name is Tyler Basu, and today I am joined by Geoff Murphy, who is a Thinkific user. He created a membership site called Master Your Medics, where he teaches EMT and paramedic students who are struggling in school how to get through it. Get through it and get into the industry. And he's been doing really well. He started his site in the summer of 2016. He's already had a lot of students and a lot of great feedback from the students in his course. So Geoff, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights with us today.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So how did you first get started with this? What made you decide to create a course on this topic, and why did you pick this topic, compared to any others that you could have taught?
Yeah. Well, as far as my background, I'm actually a flight paramedic by background, and so I still do that full time while running the membership site Master Your Medics. And so basically, I used to teach in a college in Calgary, and I used to consult for colleges all around Canada as well to kind of help them improve their students kind of all across Canada, get them to the level that they need to be as far as like a kind of a teaching aspect of itself. And then I ended up moving to Brandon in Manitoba, which was a small town, and there's just not much teaching opportunity in that small town after my daughter was born. There just wasn't enough time to kind of do a lot of that extracurricular stuff around other colleges and kind of taking a second job away from home. And so that's why I kind of took the internet, because I still had students that I used to teach that were coming to me for tutoring, and we were down to one income with my daughter being born. And so I kind of took that opportunity to teach online, and then I started creating courses, and then people kind of found me and started kind of coming in, and the rest is history, really. It's just I just kind of continued building and hope people would come, and then started learning a little bit about marketing, because I knew nothing about business in itself. I was a pretty experienced teacher. I did it for about 8 years before I actually got into the online aspect of things, but
Yep.
I had no idea how to market or do anything online, no idea how to build courses online, which is where Thinkific came into play there. And so that's kind of how it all started back in the summer.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it really does take a couple of different skill sets to succeed with building an online course. Like, the first is you need to be able to teach. It's one thing to know your topic or to have an area of expertise, but to be able to transfer that expertise to somebody else, especially in an online setting, there's a learning curve involved in learning some of the best ways to make that happen. And then the second part of it is, once you've got a course, how do you spread the word? How do you tell people about it? How do you market your course? And you've been able to do both very successfully. But if you could take us back to the process of creating your course, and you specifically chose the membership site model. You're using Thinkific to charge, a recurring membership fee for people to access your content, which is a little bit different from just creating one course that has all the training in there already from A to Z, and you charge for it up front. So walk us through why you decided to take this approach, and then we'll jump into like what kinds of trainings you're providing, and
Sure.
what kind of stuff you're adding to the membership site on a regular basis.
Sure. The biggest reason that I chose to go membership is that it made it affordable for not just that people had the upfront cash. And so a lot of my students didn't realize they needed the extra help until they were kind of fully in school. And so I just remember being back in college and not being able to afford something expensive like a $200, $300 course or a package of courses that was going to help me get through school. And so that was the big reason why I chose the membership style, is to give as many students the opportunity to teach or to learn as I possibly could. And so that was the big reason that I went. I still have a 1 year and a 2 year option, because school is long for those. And so that's an opportunity for people that want to take advantage of it. But I just wanted to hit as many students as I possibly could, because being a full-time paramedic, I know how hard it is to go through school and trying to go to school and also work usually at the same time. It's pretty tough. And so having something to kind of use that's not going to break the bank was really important, or would have been important to me. And I wanted to use that to my advantage.
And so what types of training did you put together? Like, are they videos? Is it text lessons? Like, what kind of media did you choose to put inside of the course?
Sure.
And what helped you decide what to teach? Was there, any sort of feedback or validation process how did you know what would be most valuable for your students?
Yeah, so I started with kind of the core courses I knew that students were learning in school, and so by starting with those, I kind of created anything from heart emergencies to lung emergencies, all the way down to like diabetes and those types of things that I knew that they needed to be taught in school.
Yeah.
And so after I had my kind of core like first members kind of in August and September, which was about 25 to 60 members kind of through that period of time, I just asked them questions every day, like, what courses should I be making now? What courses would you like to see? And I just used that feedback to kind of drive where my membership went after that. And that made a big difference in those core members, because a lot of them are still members now. And I think they really like the fact that I wasn't just kind of throwing courses out there. I was always asking for that feedback, always asking to see what they were struggling with, because as soon as they got that win from the courses that they were struggling with, they continued to ask for more and want more and want to kind of keep learning with it. And so that's really what drove where my content came from. And it's almost exclusively video. Use animated video. I try and keep it as kind of picturesque as possible, but sometimes every once in a while they get a little wordy, more like PowerPoint style. It just kind of depends on the topic that I'm working on at that time. But yeah, most of it's video and animated video for that matter.
Cool. And where are you getting these animated videos made? Like how do you get that done?
So I use a program called Video Scribe. It's a company that's run over in Europe, and they have created basically a kind of a whiteboard type of animation program where you can kind of just create whatever you want with their animations, and they're quite free in how you can create those. And so that's typically the way most of my videos are created.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
No, I really like your approach of having, a just a handful of students in the beginning and getting feedback from them. Because I think, anyone who has several years of experience in their industry, they can sometimes forget what it's like to just be getting started. And so they'll create a course and they'll teach what they think is valuable, but there's a disconnect between what somebody who's just getting started actually wants to learn in that moment.
Totally.
And so actually, asking your students up front, like, hey, what would be most helpful for you guys? What should I include next? Helps ensure that you're giving them exactly what it is that they need. Is there any other part of, in terms of setting up your membership site? So you've got the video training. Is there anything else happening in there? Are your students downloading resources? Have you got discussions or quizzes or anything like that? What else is happening to facilitate engagement and making sure they're completing the training?
For sure. And so there's a couple ways that I've improved the engagement. At first it was tough because I didn't want to include kind of the traditional quizzes, because I felt like that was kind of counterproductive. I felt like people were just they get too worked up with quizzes as opposed to actually learning from them. And so I kind of tried to steer away from that, which didn't benefit me in the beginning, because that's kind of the main way that people kind of like ensure themselves that they know things. And then someone actually within my group that I have suggested using flashcards, like online flashcards, instead of actual quizzes. And it worked great. And so instead of actually having multiple choice exams, for every single quiz, I have a stack of 100 flashcards that they can go to through Quizlet and go through that to confirm whether or not they know the information that's been brought to in the kind of the course itself. And so that, and a little bit of downloads, not too many. About one PDF per course is available for download, so that they can write down their answers and stuff like that. And another thing that really helps is that I started kind of getting into the continuing education as well. So my students know that they can submit these courses for continuing education. And that helps for engagement as well, because they know that if they complete the course, they get a certificate, which they can use later on when they have to renew their license as well.
Ah, that's great. And was it tricky to set that up for you to make sure that your courses would get a certification that would be recognized by some of those institutions, or?
It was tough. I was lucky that I knew some of those background channels already. And so I started kind of with my home province here in Alberta, and that's where I work and that's where I taught. And so I knew the people that were kind of approving and disapproving those kind of things. So I started there, and once I tweaked my courses to kind of get them okay with it and then on board, then the ball started rolling for the rest of Canada after that, because the guidelines are pretty well the same throughout the rest of Canada. So that's, once I got one approved, that's what kind of got me going the rest of the way.
Created the snowball. No, that's great. And that's another reason why presenting your course and asking for feedback is important, not just from your students, but if you're trying to get your course to be able to give away a certification that's recognized by other entities. I mean, why not go and approach them and be like, hey, this is my idea for my course. If I include this, this, and this, would you guys recognize that as a certification? It seems like you took that approach as well. I wanted to ask about marketing, because this is something that was new to you. You didn't have a background in marketing or anything, and yet you've done a great job of spreading the word about your course and getting students enrolled. So what are some of your top ways that you are telling people about your course and finding those students to take it?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was mostly people that already knew me from school, from me teaching. And so even them, they were difficult to convince at the time, because there's no one that's doing this type of site in our industry. And so it's even harder, like pretty hard to convince people that even to jump on it when no one's really heard of this type of structure. After that, I started kind of working on, what I call and a couple of people that I've kind of worked with have called guerrilla marketing, is just basically finding free channels that people are in. And so I found some EMS forums for students that I would post free videos to, that were educational videos on certain topics. Yeah. And then I would find Facebook groups as well, and I would just post educational videos to them. Had nothing to do with marketing at all, had no call to action at all. It was just simply to teach. And so I would post videos into those groups. Same with Reddit as well, and subreddits that were related to my niche itself. And I just started posting videos and helping students that had questions in those groups and in those forums as well. That's the first thing that I did. That helped actually quite a bit, and getting me recognized and getting me well known. Mm-hmm. Then after that, I started getting into Facebook marketing, and I didn't start out with it simply because I didn't have the money for it. And that was really kind of the reality of it, is I didn't want to use my own money to basically market. I wanted to use money that was already being brought into the membership. And so once I started making a little bit of money, then I started going into Facebook marketing. My wife had a rule that I couldn't use family money in order to do the business. Okay. So I just basically had to find ways to get people into the membership without spending a dime. And in reality of things, it was a great little rule, because it kept my money in my pocket, and there's nothing worse than having debt with your business. So, especially when you're on your own. And so I got into Facebook marketing. I tried an email course first, and it was a 5-day course on a topic that I knew people were struggling with. Mm-hmm. And then I had a call to action after that of like, hey, if you want to learn more, become a member. And I would offer them their first month 50% off. And so that's how I started that. That worked for a little while, and it just didn't have the return that I was expecting. And it wasn't a good, quick kind of return on money. I mean, I usually had to wait a week or 10 days before that money came back to me. Right. And so that was a little bit tricky, because I was paying upfront for Facebook ads and not getting the money to pay those off until maybe 10, 15 days later, which ended up being kind of a struggle. And so I switched to webinars. Again, doing the same thing, doing topics that I knew students were struggling with. And that's what really shot my business up. And so before webinars, I was doing anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 a month of the revenue. And then I guess a better example would be that I had about 80 to 100 students before October. And then after October, and the kind of a 60-day run of webinars, I had 220 students. Wow. And so I had a really big shot after those webinars. And so once I recognized that they were working, I kind of ramped up the Facebook marketing from that point. Yeah. And then that's kind of where I'm at today is just continually creating more webinars that I know students are struggling with and continue to build the membership that way.
Okay, no, very cool. Are these live webinars or pre-recorded?
No, they're pre-recorded for the
Okay.
most part. I do jump on about once a week to do a live one.
Yep.
Being a full-time paramedic and a dad as well just doesn't leave a lot of time to do a lot of live ones.
Yeah, no, I get that. So the Facebook ads, are they directly promoting webinars, or does something happen in between those steps? Like, is it Facebook ad to webinar registration, or?
Yeah, they're directly to a registration to a webinar. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess how are you targeting who sees the ad?
Basically, I'll either do people that have liked my page already and their friends, mostly because, well, it just kind of makes sense doing that because usually the people that are friends with have the same people in the industry kind of idea. So that works out well. So I get a lot of registrations that way, and then I will just find people on the Facebook kind of targeting area, like people that are in school to be paramedics, into school to be EMTs, or in the industry itself, or people that are already EMTs but going back to paramedic school. So there's a lot of options that I had when it came to Facebook marketing, which is great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so going back to before you started spending money to promote your course, you were doing some free stuff. Which is great because you know that stuff works too. You proved that it works. We're constantly telling people, look, if you don't have a budget for ads yet, or you don't want to go into debt, not knowing if your ads are going to bring in customers or not, do some free stuff. Like, you know, go on Quora, answer questions, go in Facebook groups, talk to people, go on Reddit, you know, start a YouTube channel, get some content out there, just be helpful for your target audience. But I'm just curious, so when you were doing that, you know, when you were talking in Facebook groups and posting videos and things like that, what was the path people were going down? Was it like, hey, check out my courses, or was it check out my website? Was it join my email list? Like, how did you go from, you know, answering a question or adding value in a Facebook group, let's say, to getting somebody to enroll in your course?
Usually went from one Facebook group to the other. And so usually I would have a conversation with someone on a larger Facebook group, and whether it was a topic that we just covered within our own Facebook group, or like, hey, we just covered this, there's some great information here, and I'd say you can check it out on this Facebook group, and then they would go there.
You have your own Facebook group?
I do, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. A couple more questions for you. This is really good, by the way. Thank you. I'm really impressed with your whole approach, and the way that you've mitigated your risk at each step. Like you broke this whole process down into stepping stones, and each stepping stone was an experiment, and you didn't tackle something else until you made that previous step work. If that makes sense.
Every time that I tried to do two things at once, it always failed, and and then I had to learn that lesson 3 or 4 times before I finally just gave up on trying to do two things at once. So it's huge, and just trying to just focus on one thing until it works for sure.
Yeah, that's a great advice. And actually that leads me into my next question, which is what has been one of the biggest challenges that you faced throughout this journey? Would you say that it's been a little bit of that shiny object syndrome, trying to do a couple of things at once, or were there other parts that were challenging as well?
Huge. Yeah, there was a lot. And so it's funny when you start making a little bit of money, you start getting a little bit of success, you start to kind of look too far down the line. And I did that, and I kind of forgot where my origins were, where that was being an educator and wanting to teach students. And I actually was trying to get a prospect, a student that was interested, but I sent him an email wondering if he was interested. And he actually sent me an email back saying, you know what, it's pretty obvious to me that right now, talking to you, that you're just interested in the money and you're not actually interested in teaching. And as hard of that was to hear, it was probably the biggest wake-up call that I had. And that I did lose focus, and I was focusing on other things and venturing out to other things to try and bring in more money instead of actually teaching students. And that brought me back full circle and reminded me what I did. And after I got reminded of that, it definitely improved my business that much more again. And so that was a big struggle, is just kind of keeping on that path, not getting too distracted by the money. And it's so easy to do that, to just see that money and be excited about it. And and just think that that's everything that's really involved here, and it's not. And so that was a pretty hard moment for me, but definitely one of the biggest lessons that I learned.
Okay, no, that's a great lesson. And so your main priority has come back to doing the best job you can at teaching your students and serving your students, and the money comes after. We've seen that, but you've really placed your students as your first priority.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. In terms of allowing your students to interact with each other, have you got anything set up for that? I know you mentioned you have a Facebook group. Are some of your students in that group as well, or is there another environment where your students are able to interact with either you or each other?
I keep it all in the Facebook group. I keep it kind of all in one place so I can manage it appropriately. I thought about creating an exclusive Facebook group for students that are paid students, and then have a free one as well. And I kind of talked to the people that are paying right now and wondering how they felt about it. And none of them really raised any concerns about having just one group as opposed to an exclusive group from them. They didn't really mind having them just in the free group. And it's good for me because it would have kind of increased the amount of work that I would have had to do for them both. So I'm happy that they didn't have an issue with it. And so they all communicate and converse inside that one group.
Okay, cool. Do you find that because you've got students and so customers really inside of that group and other people that are not yet customers, do you find that the conversations your customers are having, or when they're saying good things about your course, does it help, convince other people to then sign up for your course?
Huge. It's huge. Cool. Yeah. And so typically when I have a new course that gets released or a new recorded webinar, I put the instructor notes and the recorded webinar on the within the membership itself. And then I'll announce that in the Facebook group that it's now included within the membership. And then people will comment that have seen it, like, oh, I loved it, this is awesome, and so on and so forth. And it really brings in quite a few people after they see these comments. And I think that, that social proof makes a huge difference and with my business for sure.
Oh, that's great. When you were actually putting together your course and setting up your site and all that stuff, and I am interested in hearing why you chose Thinkific over other options. But before we get into that, what are some of your favorite, tools, equipment, software for actually creating your content? Like, do you have a favorite mic, editing program, anything like that you're using?
I try and keep it pretty minimalistic. I have a blue microphone, a snowball microphone. Cost me $60, and it does the job that I needed to do. And then I have just Video Scribe. I wouldn't be able to create the videos that I have and make them as entertaining as I can without Video Scribe. So I think that it was the first purchase that I made in creating courses, and it's by far the most important, I think, as far as software goes. And then I use Snagit for screen recordings and those types of things. And it works just fine. I have no issues with that as well. And then I just use iMovie for editing when I need it. And then as far as apps go, Evernote, I like to try and keep things as organized as possible. I tend to forget things as soon as I think about them. So it's great to have something to write down in, and Evernote does that quite well.
Okay, cool. And so when it was time to actually build the site and set up the membership, I'm guessing you did a bit of research, because it sounds like that's, you do like to research your options and see what's out there. So what made you choose Thinkific over some of the other options, and what is it about the platform that works best for you, or that you like the most?
The biggest thing that I focused on was the customer service. When I first started, I'm a pretty big stickler when it comes to customer service and having people that have my back. And just from the feedback that I got, not saying that the other options were bad, but either they were too busy, or their staff was too spread out, or they just couldn't handle the workload that they had. Whatever the problem was, I just felt that their students or their customers just felt undervalued by them. And so that's a big reason why I chose Thinkific, because anytime I had a problem, I had someone talking to me within an hour. It's one of the best Facebook groups I've ever seen as far as advice and helping people out, and just basically giving as much as they can get back kind of idea. And so that was a big thing for me, is watching that community. And I was in it when it only had 1,200 people in it. And so it was pretty early on when I started. And so seeing that was really cool. And by that point, it just really had no other option for me. It's just as far as the features go, there's not a huge difference in features, but what really kind of brings you to light was the experience I got from you guys. And I think that's the big thing that made me buy with you.
Okay, cool. No, that's great. I appreciate that feedback. Are there any, words of encouragement or advice that you could pass on to somebody who's, they have an area of expertise, they wanted to create an online course, they haven't done it yet, and they're just kind of on the fence about it. Is there anything that you can say to them to help get them going?
Yeah, I would just say to get it out there and create something, because it's not. The great thing about the internet is just it's not set in stone, and the difference between a classroom and being online is that as soon as you say it in a classroom, it's said, and you can't really kind of go back and change it kind of idea. But with the online world, you can get it out there, and when you're like, oh, I made a mistake, and I want to say it this way, or I want to kind of tweak this and tweak that, there's always an opportunity to go back there. And so I feel that a lot of people are just afraid to get their stuff out there, and it's just at first, it's just you make mistakes. I made plenty of mistakes on medical information, and so that was a pretty big deal to make the mistakes on that. And I had to fight through that and tweak it, and it didn't put any damage on my business to do that. And so I think the biggest thing is just when you have something and you're passionate about it, build it and put it out there, and then just start tweaking it and working towards making it better and better.
So yeah, no, that's great. You're a perfect example of somebody who has gone from idea to online course, having students in a very reasonable and in a way short amount of time. I know there was a lot of learning involved and a lot of steps to take, but looking back, did you even think that you could get to where you are now? From compared
no. to yeah, it's kind of a funny thing is that I creating it just to tutor some students here and there, and trying to I was thinking I was just going to keep it in the realm of Alberta, which is only about 6,000 practitioners and maybe 1,000 students in all of Alberta. And so that's kind of where I was kind of going to be. And now I have students that are in Australia, New Zealand, London, all over the States and all over Canada as well. So it's just kind of, it's funny that in the beginning, I never would have thought that I would have got a student all the way in Australia that wanted to learn from me. And it's just kind of a really cool thing. You don't realize how widespread your reach is going to be when you get on the internet. And that was kind of a big testament to me and learning that. And yeah, it's super cool. And I'm a normal guy. Like all I knew was how to teach. I had no other experience whatsoever. And so that's a big reason why I want to kind of reach out and kind of get people to learn about these kind of things, is that as soon as you learn to teach people and show people how to do things, they'll follow you. As soon as you give them that win, they'll follow you. And I didn't realize that and learn that until kind of getting into this business. And it's just kind of funny. And then everything else, it was just trial and error. And that's all it was. So it's just kind of a cool little experience and kind of a cool journey. It doesn't feel like it's only been 8 months or 6 months or however long it's been. It feels much longer than that. And everything that I've learned and everything that's changed, kind of what's happened here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Geoff, thank you so much for taking the time to to reach out and to share your story with us and share some advice for other course creators. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, ask you questions or check out your courses, where is the best place that we can direct them?
If they're interested in Master Your Medics, they can reach out to Geoff at masteryourmedics.com, and they can also join the Facebook group. They just search Master Your Medics and they can check it out there. And masteryourmedics.com as well. Anything Master Your Medics, you'll find us.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck with your courses, and we'll keep in touch.
For sure. Thanks.